Okay, in this session, we're going to be looking at how to prevent a carjacking. So, as always, if you've got questions as we go along, just chuck them in the comments or indeed later, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Right, okay, so preventing a carjacking. Why does carjackings happen, i.e. when someone tries to steal a car? An awful lot of cars these days have got really good security on them, and it's an awful lot more difficult to just actually steal the car without a set of keys. So if you can get the keys either off you or break into a house, or while the car's actually running itself, an awful lot easier to steal those cars. Why? Potentially, sometimes to escape a scene of a crime, and it's an ad hoc thing. It could also be a focus thing. So in particular, if you've got a unique car or a particularly highly desirable car, or a car that's just generally useful that can be used for a chop shop, then those cars are targeted. So that's a planned, motived opportunity for a carjacking. Also, in some cases, there's some quite serious crimes that might be attached to why someone would want to try and jack a car in the first place. Now, statistically, the individuals who might be targeted more are those people who are perhaps a little bit more senior, ladies, and also either on their own or if they are carrying with children. In particular, target areas or target individuals are people who are preoccupied, i.e. people are not particularly paying attention to their surroundings, they're distracted, the music's blaring, we'll come on to points in a moment in terms of distances in front of the cars before, and people who are parked in isolated areas and darkened areas and places basically somewhere that's easy to lift the car, or that you're going to be in a much more vulnerable position. So the who is basically the more vulnerable you potentially are, or you put yourself in that situation, the more likelihood you're going to be chosen as a target for a carjacking. So here's an example of a type of carjacking scenario. This is from the United States, where an individual is coming in. So pay attention to this individual here, who is keeping an eye on the car. The victim is in the process of filling up the car with fuel and just paying it and sort it all out just here, and just watch what happens. He's just gone straight in the car. He locked it, and he's off. Seconds. That's how long it can take. Try not to get overly stressed and worried about it. I mean, it's a statistical small chance that you could be involved, but it's well worth understanding what you can do to try and minimise the probability of it actually happening to you. So, when does it happen? So, the car needs to be stopped to make it easy for people to get in. So where are those scenarios? So we're talking about junctions, traffic lights, or a giveaway stop. Basically, the cars come to a rest, and there's an opportunity where someone might be able to try and jack you from there. Places where the car's already stationary, you're coming towards it, there's lots of other busyness going on, other people not paying a particular attention. Alternatively, it's dark, and those sorts of areas where it's an ideal spot where people can identify people coming out of shops, work out the sort of victim profile that they're looking for, target those individuals, follow what's going on, and then jack the car. We've just seen what can happen at a petrol station or car washes in terms of, again, the car stopped, the engines, the mistake the individual did there was the keys were obviously in the car. Really important to take those with you. Driveways, so that's kind of like from your home. They can just grab the keys either from the house or just as you're about to set off. There's a trend a little bit of what's called a bump or fake accident. So that's where basically someone just accidentally just taps into you at a roundabout or on an intersection or whatever it is, and like, oh crumbs, there's an accident. You get out of the car, you see what's going on, you try and what's happened. Before you know it, someone's jumped into the driver's seat and driven off to the car, and the person who caused the bump's gone as well, and you're just left there stranded. Another one is a windscreen scam. So basically where you've unlocked the car, you got into there, and you realise that there's something on the window. So you've now opened the car, and then you've perhaps got the keys in the ignition, and you're just about to say, oh, what on earth is that? And you get back out of the car to remove what on earth it is on the window. And when that happens, you're out, you're pulled out of the way, and then someone takes the car and off you go. So that's the type of scenarios that can present themselves. It's probably worth just clocking what those things are. How to prepare yourself to try and minimise the risk of it again being you. These are just some fairly basic top tips on what to do. We'll go on a little bit more advanced ones in a second. But if you're driving around, just keep your windows and doors locked and closed at all times. Keep your valuables out of the show, so kind of like behind the parcel shelf in the boot, under the floor wells, what are those, or don't take them with you in the first place to make you more of an interesting target. Make sure your car works, or your vehicle just works, because if you just start breaking down, it just makes it more. You just put yourself in a more of a vulnerable position. That's more of a broader sort of point in addition to just carjacking itself. If you're driving in places where you're not familiar, I mean, you look at the posture of people who are driving and they know where they're going and they look confident, then they are probably going to be less likely to be a victim. If you don't know what's going on, you're looking around, you're looking a little bit lost, you perhaps ask for directions, boom, there's an opportunity there. So, plan the route that you're going to do before going on. Keep everything, if everything's lit up, it's a lot harder to sneak around, so stay on well-lit street areas. If you can at all, avoid driving alone. It's an awful lot more difficult to jack a car from two adults than it is from just a single person. And also, when it comes to your driving style, when you come to a stopped point in traffic, make sure there's enough space. So if you are in one of those situations, someone's trying to jack your car, if you're bumper to bumper with that car in front of you, then it's really difficult to go. So please make sure you've got a gap. So an example here, this red car here is fairly close when you compare it to this Mini over here, where there's a bit of a gap here. So if there's something that happens, that Mini can just get out of the way. Yes, this person can get out a little bit, but we're sort of closing down options. So the more closer you are in terms of kind of gaps in between the cars in front, the more difficult it is going to be for you to make your escape. So some top tips of what to do to help prevent this. So I'll just pause here a second for you to have a little bit of read through that. Feel free to pause at this point if it's a bit easier, and we're going to move on. So hopefully that's really, really useful. If you want some questions about that, just chuck them in the comments and I'll get back to you. Here's a scenario here. So this is a setup scenario, but it just really applies what it can do. So in the event you're in a carjacking scenario, what can you do to try and escape? And including kind of a little bit of a driving technique towards the tail end of the clip. So here we got the car is driving down. So this is the victim who's just pulled over to try perhaps check directions, see what's going on. There's a second vehicle who's been tailing him for a little bit of time, comes along and blocks off an escape route. Clearly, you potentially go through the grass here. It's pulled out a weapon there to try and take the carjacking. The individual stuck it into reverse, gone straight away. Now, obviously, there's a threat still with a weapon being pointed at them. They put in a little bit of an S-bend there to try and minimise the ability for aiming. And all that happened in a really short period of time. So it's the importance of that. The takeaway is about being alert and just knowing what to do and just think it through. So if you've perhaps gone through it, even rehearsed kind of like a bit of a scenario as a little bit of a team, and just mentally work through, I'm going to do this in this particular scenario, it just kind of like takes the initial shock of capture, that sort of panic moment, and like, oh crumbs, this has happened, I'm going to do this. It almost becomes a little bit more muscle memory. Okay, so reactions. So if someone steals or does jack the car, you've got a couple of choices. You can either chase it down, like in the top diagram, which looks quite dangerous, and obviously you can cause yourself an awful lot of injury doing that. Your choice, not highly recommended. Or alternatively, as you can see in this clip here, what's a particular scenario in a parking lot. So one adult is gone away, and then an individual has come up and is threatening and says, basically, give me the car. Second individual's come up. There's a bit of a struggle. Balance of probability of who's going to win this tussle has lost to the owner of the car. And he's just decided, right, do you know what? My life is more important than this vehicle. I'm gone. That's it. And one thing to point out there, that they did have a weapon. So that really tipped the balance in terms of what should you do. Okay, so the reactions. Try and stay as calm as possible. If you've thought through what you're going to be doing, and it just takes that little bit of kind of like that panic out of it as you can. Try and stay calm and measured. If there's a threat of a weapon, do you know what? It's just not worth it. It's just the vehicle. You know, if it's insured, it'll come. You know, you'll be able to get the money back and all that sort of stuff. It's just not worth your life or your loved one's life. Try and get away from the area as quickly as you possibly can. So if the threat's there and you can drive away, then you know this comes on to a point a little bit later down here in terms of escape and all terrain. So try and get away from the area as soon as you possibly can. So if you have got an option of going over the pavement or going over a bit of grass or going over what it is, and you know what, you think that the vehicle is suitable for going across, why not just go for it? You know, you're not limited to just on the road when you're trying to escape from danger. Just get away as soon as you possibly can. Hoot the horn, make as much noise as you possibly can. That might just deter. That might be just enough of an instantaneous shock moment for the people who are trying to grab the car to panic and then just run off themselves. Think, you know, what's more important, the injury or threat to life. You know, so here, kind of like this individual is going to end up in quite a lot of pain, even if they manage to stop the car. You know, this dragging here is hurting him more than it is the vehicle. If you can, because you know, the next right thing to do is obviously report the crime to the police. Try and get a good recognition of what the individual actually looks like, or the individuals, just to help with the police investigation and the police report to see whether or not they can identify who it is and try and get the vehicle back to you, or at least arrest the individuals. Cool. So that's it in a nutshell. Carjacking. If you've got questions, and I'm sure you have, just chuck them in the comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as you possibly can. I just want to keep it a brief little bit overview. So things to be aware of: driveways. You know who's near you. Driveways again. When you're driving away, there's another opportunity for someone to stop and grab the car. If you've got valuables on display, if you're distracted, you know, music's blaring, kind of like you're not really paying attention, all that sort of stuff. Or alternatively, when someone's trying to effectively bump you, or alternatively to force you to stop. How can you stay safe as possible whilst minimising the chance of you getting a carjacking? Look around and plan your route before you're going, and avoid any form of distractions and asking directions, because you just don't know what's going on. If you are attacked, try and respond and try and push through. So say, for example, you've still got control of the vehicle, just engage gear. If you've got some space in front of you, just go. You know, recognize where the tricks and the techniques come in through, whether it's the bumping or you know, and if they are, and there's two of you in the vehicle, because you kind of like you're driving in pairs, which is the safer thing to do. The passenger checks the bump, not the driver, so that you can keep the engine going, and if there's something bad or if something's not right, the passenger can jump back in the car and you can just drive off as soon as you possibly can and stay safe. And obviously notify the police or local authorities as soon as you can. Keep the keys with you if you're away from your car, even if it's for a brief time, you're just standing next to it. And really kind of like it's about escape routes. So at those intersections or queues, just make sure that you're keeping a distance so that you can actually get away. And you know what? If it's a smart criminal, they'll kind of like recognize, you know what, you're paying attention a little bit more than other people. And like in many other scenarios with the criminal, if you are the harder target to go for, they'll go for someone else and you'll be a little bit safer. Okay, so that in a nutshell is carjacking. Like always, if you need a refresher a little bit later, click on subscribe to save trying to hunt for this thing.